So today, the 3rd of Shvat, 5786. We are continuing studying Sefer Halikutim, Tzemach Tzedek, the encyclopedia, the compilation from the Chassidus of the Tzemach Tzedek, and we're studying the entry of Umot haOlam, the nations of the world. And we're going to go back because last time we had a question about something that he says on page Tov Kuf Lamed Hey, which would be 535. It says over there that the chazir, that the swine or the pig, is from Klipas Noiga, and it's going to become pure. So we got stuck on that. How can we say such a thing? For we know that in general, the rule is, as is stated clearly in Tanya and in many other places, that anything which is forbidden for a Jew is getting its life, its energy, its existence through the three klipos, the three shells or coverings, which are completely evil and impure and totally conceal the holiness of Hashem. And all of the things in this world which are permissible and can be used by a Jew are getting their life and their vitality and existence through Klipas Noiga, through this fourth covering, this shell, which allows the light to shine through it. So how can we say that a chazir, a pig, is klipas noiga when a chazir is definitely, absolutely forbidden for a Jew to eat? Just that in the future, in the times of Moshiach, it will return, it'll become kosher. Okay, so I don't have it yet completely clear, but I just want to refer to a sicha, a talk, an essay of the Rebbe Melech HaMoshiach, and this is from Shabbos, the week of Vayetze, the 7th of Kislev, in the year 5751, which would be the end of 1990. So it's Vayetze 5751. It's in Sefer Asichos 5751, volume 1. And there he's speaking about this final exile that we're in now, which is referred to as the exile of Edom, which is, of course, Esav. And he brings down that it says that Asid Chazir Litaher, that the Chazer, the swine or the pig, is going to become purified. In other words, right now, it only has split hooves. It's the only animal that has split hooves and does not chew its cud. So it has split hooves, and it will also chew its cud. Okay, is there too much background noise, or is it okay?
No, I think it sounds like, I can hear you teaching, and it sounds like a typical Hasidus house, like there's just some background children, and, it's great. I think it's good, actually. Okay, good, fine. So, anyway, over there, in footnote 78, the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach quotes and references from a source in Kabbalah that the chazer is called klipas noiga, and therefore, when it's going to be sweetened in the future, it'll return and become holy. And then he says to look in Or HaTorah from the Tzemach Tzedek, not the piece that we're doing now, where he says elsewhere that the idea of the chazir is klipas noiga, And then he says like this. The first three, see in the list over there in the Torah where it speaks about the non-kosher animals, so the first three are gamal, arneves, and shafan. Now that would be a whole discussion for itself because it's commonly translated one way, but then there's somebody, a rabbi in New York, who did a lot of research, and he claims that they are mistranslated, and he translates them differently. But these are three non-kosher animals. A gamal is a camel, and arneves and shafan are commonly translated, and in modern day Hebrew, they would be a rabbit and a hare. But he claims that it's completely different animals. But be that as it may, those three non-kosher animals, says the Tzemach Tzedek, correspond to the three klipos that are totally impure. Okay? So the question that he asks then is, if so, those three, which are the three complete impure klipos, so they should be worse than klipas noiga. So why is it that the worst exile is the one of Edom, the one of the Chazir, of Esav? Why were they the worst and harmful to the Jews if it's only klipas noiga? So the Tzemach Tzedek explains that because it's closer, since it's closer to kedusha, this klipas noiga, therefore its envy and hatred is more intense. And then he goes further, and he brings from the Alter Rebbe that even though the pig is klipas noiga, which is higher than the three completely impure ones, but nonetheless, because it has split hooves, that it actually is an opening for the external sources of evil. And that's why it's actually the head of all the klipos, which includes the three impure klipos. And therefore, it's even and it ended up being more wicked than the others, than the three klipos. But in the future, there's going to be a purification of klipas noiga in general, and then it'll be separated from being a source for these external powers, and then the chazer specifically will become purified because it is from klipas noiga, whereas the other ones will not be elevated, will not have their purification. Yeah. Okay. Still, after all said and done, it's still not clear to me how we can say that there is but I guess
you started to. I wonder if somebody's using some bandwidth right now, but your audio and video started to go short again.
Maybe.
I don't know. So you want to put me on the thing? Yeah, okay, we're going to switch now to the video, to the computer.
Okay.
So still we need to understand what that means exactly, but at least we see over here that somehow the chazir, the swine or the pig, is klipas noiga, and because of that, in the future, will be able to be elevated because it has split hooves. And in that sikha, it goes on to explain that the split hooves represents the action, the deed, the feet, whereas the chewing of the cud is more internal, and that's what it lacks. But since at the end of the day, the main thing is action and behavior, therefore, it will be able to be elevated and purified. But that's what it says. Klipas noiga.
So Rabbi Turen, is he saying that the Hazir is originally from Klipat Noga?
I don't know.
But then it falls, and because I've read, like for instance, Hazir is the root word is hoser, I believe, which means returns.
To return. Yeah.
And I'm wondering if it's, and I'm not saying I've seen a source or anything, but I'm wondering if it fell from its high level. It's actually in a fallen state right now, but it originally was from Klipad Noga, being it's like Esav and the like.
I guess. I'm not clear on that.
Okay. Very interesting.
Fine. Let's continue now. So that brings us to page Tov Kuf Lamed Vav. I just wanted for that clarification from last time.
Thank you.
Are we on Tov Kuf Lamed Vav or Tov Kuf Lamed Zayin?
Oh, excuse me. Vav, and we're at the base.
Top one?
Yeah, base Tav Yud.
Okay.
Oh, and Rabbi Turen, real quick, and I know it doesn't address it, but does that mean that pig will actually become kosher, or is it a metaphysical thing?
No, it will change. Its physical digestive system will change. It will chew its cud, which whatever that means, have to have another part of the stomach, whatever that is, and then it will be permissible for Jews to eat.
So in other words, I don't want to make it clear, like during the Messianic age, and maybe we're in it right now or whatever, it's not saying go ahead and eat pig.
Not yet.
Yeah, okay.
Not until
they physically
the physical pig changes, and even then, no individual can rule for themselves. We're going to have the Supreme Jewish Court, the Sanhedrin, rule and then tell us that it is kosher.
Wow, that's cool.
So until then, no Jew can eat pig.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you for answering that.
All right. Tov Kuf Lamed Vav. Top of the page, third line. Bitargum Yonason. That's the acronym. Beis Taf Yud. Bitargum Yonason. Parshas Hazinu. Now we know that, or I'll tell you, in the script of the Chumash, in the 5 books of Moses, so there is a Targum, a translation called Targum Unkelus. Unkelus was actually a Ger Tzedek. He was a convert. And what he did was he restored the Aramaic translation of the Torah that had been lost. So he received it and he then put it all down. And that is what we have in every standard Chumash. On the side of the verses of the actual text, you will find Targum Unkelus. Then there's another Targum, another translation, but it's much more than a translation. It's really a commentary. And that is called Targum Yonason ben Uziel. Yonason ben Uziel was one of the great Tanoic sages in the era of the Mishnah. And he explains the verses in the Torah based on a lot of midrashic interpretations that he has. So his goes into much more detail and background stories than Unkelus. So in the Targum Yonason, in the Torah portion of Ha'azinu, which is towards the end of Devarim of Deuteronomy, al pasuk, on the verse that says, Behancheil elyoin goyim, when the one above, Hashem, will give an inheritance of the nations of the world, Bahafridoi in his separating Bnei Adam, people. Yatsev, he will substantiate, he will place firmly. Gvulois Amim, borders of the nations. Now, each nation, each country will have its borders. Lemispar Bnei Yisrael, according to the number of the Bnei Yisrael. And that's what we said previously, that's why there are 70 nations, corresponding to the original 70 souls of the Jewish people that went into Egypt. So originally with Yaakov and all of his children, so the entire family, Yaakov, his children and grandchildren, totaled 70. And that is the pre-runner, so to say, for the 70 nations. So what does Targum Yonasan say on that? Be'achasanus ila'a, in the inheritance of the one above, alma, of the world, le'amemaya, to the nations, chule, etc. Akim, I will establish, tchume umaya, the borders of the nations, bischum, in the amount, minyan, in number, shebe'ayin nafshasa Yisrael, that's in the 70 souls of Israel, the nachasu Mitzrayim, that went down into Egypt. Ad kan l'shoinoi, end of quote of the Targum Yonasan. So that is the source that we're bringing, that the nations of the world are 70, and each one will have its borders, and it's all based on the 70 souls of the original Jews going down to Egypt. V'chein pirish Rashi sham. And likewise, Rashi in his commentary, which of course he came much after Targum Yonasan, Rashi in his commentary there says same idea. Nimtza, so it comes out, Vulois Amim, the borders of the nations, the Der Haflaga, of the generation of the Tower of Babylon, Haim Tachas Yad Ein Melachim. They are under the hand of the 70 ministering angels. In other words, each nation has its angel, which is its spiritual power. The Shivim Nefesh to Yaakov, and the 70 people, 70 souls of the Jewish people of Yaakov, Hem Chelek Dalit, they are 1/4. The Ayin Mizeh, the Medrash Rabbah, Seif Parshas Mishpatim, Seif Parshas Lamed Beis. Now he gives a few references. In the Midrash Rabbah, I think when it says Chelek Dalid, I'm sorry, it's Chelek Hashem. That the Jewish people are the portion of Hashem. Uvmedrash Rabbah Parshas Nosai, Parsha Tes, Tafresh Lamed, Amud Beis, Shehu Chav Gimel Beis. So another Medrash Rabbah says, Yatsev Gvulei Samim, that he will establish the borders of the nations, Lemispar Bnei Yisrael, according to the number of the Jews, the Kama Haim, and how many are they? Kol HaNefesh Haba Leves Yaakov, as the verse says, every person, all the people that came down from the family of Yaakov, Shivim are 70, the Humais Shivim, and likewise the nations are 70. Ad kan l'shoinei. So he's bringing you a bunch of sources to show you this concept of the 70 nations coming from and corresponding to the 70 original Jews. Zoyar, Chelek Aleph, Seif Parshas Vayishlach, Taf Kuf Ayin Zayin Amud Aleph, Al Pasuk Ve'el HaMelachim. Okay, then we have also, he tells us that the Zoyar seems to say the same idea. And then he tells us now about a mimer he's going to quote from the Alter Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek's grandfather. In a Hasidic discourse, opening with the words of the verse Torah Tziva, the Tov Kuf Samech Zayin of the year Tov Kuf Samech Zayin, which would be 5567. That's actually 199 years ago. Kosav, the Alter Rebbe writes, V'zel Shoynoi, and this is his language, to quote, word for word. Ach, hine, shoyresh umakar harishoin. However, behold, the earliest root and source, la'ayin sarim, for the 70 ministering angels, heim bechinas zayin melochim, the 7 kings, shemolchu be'eretz Edom umesu, that they ruled in the land of Edom, and they died. At the end of the Torah portion, I believe, of Vayishlach, it lists the 7 kings, and at each one it says, and he reigned, and he died. Next, and he reigned, and he died. Next. 7 of them are mentioned. And they were in the land of Edom, of Esav. So, Shenaflu mima'amadam umadregasam. So what happened? What does it mean that they died? In a spiritual sense, what are we talking about? They fell from their status, from their level, as they were in the world of Atzilus. And they fell down to become the source for the 7 ministering angels, for the 70 rather, so it should be from them the existence and the life, for the physical and all 4 parts of the world, of the physical world, the inanimate, the world of vegetation, and the animal kingdom, including the birds and the fish, and then man, the physical. So it all breaks down from the original 7 kings, which are from the world of Tohu, because they're Edom, and then they fell from their level, and they went down, and that became, from those 7, became the 70 angels, and those 70 angels are the source of all physical things in this world. And then the Alter Rebbe, in the explanation on his discourse, so he explains there that where exactly, what level did this breakage happen? It's in the so-called points of Bina. And from there is the root of the 70 spiritual angels. Now, the 70 souls of Yaakov, which went down to Mitzrayim, they are from the world of Tikkun, in contrast to Tohu. Tohu, as we've mentioned, is the higher world than Tikkun, and Tohu literally means chaos. That is the source of Esav, higher than Yaakov, but it, so to say, didn't work out, didn't exist, and it fell. They broke and it fell. But the 70 nations of Yaakov, that is Tikkun, the world of Tikkun, which means fixed, rectified, and proper.
So Yisrael really is the conduit of salvation in the world for this. I mean, Yisrael is it.
Yeah. As you say now, and he, the Jewish people, actually are the ones that are fixing, rectifying, and purifying the world of Tohu, elevating it, fixing it back to, how it should be.
I wish more people knew that.
Yeah. That might minimize some anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
Now, he said that this discourse of the Alter Rebbe is opening words on the verse Torah Tziva, that the Torah that was commanded. But what is the rest of that verse? the rest of the verse is Moirasha, an inheritance, Kehilas Yaakov, for the Jewish congregation. So that's the idea of Moirasha, an inheritance for the congregation of Yaakov. Shal Yudei Abirur, that through this purification process, Shal Yudei Maaseh HaMitzvos, which is being done through the deed of performance of mitzvahs by Jews physically doing in action the rituals, the commandments of Hashem. So then the world of Tikkun inherits the great, great, intense energy of the higher world of Toyu. And with this, we can now understand the idea of the verse in Ha'azinu, Yatsev Gvulois Amim Lemispar B'nei Yisrael, that Hashem is going to establish the borders of the nations according to the number of Bnei Yisrael. Meaning, Sharei Ein Nefesh Heim HaKelim D'Tikun. The 70 souls, the 70 Jews, are the vessels of the world of Tikkun, of rectification. Shekvar Niskenu, that they were already rectified, Al Yedei Shem Ma, through Hashem's name, which is the numerical value of 45. The name Yud Kei Vav Kei, spelled out. So there's 4 different ways how to spell each one of those letters, Yud Kei Vav Kei, and one of them is the equivalence of 45. And in these vessels is enclosed the very essence.
Rabbi Turen, is that was what the Tzemach Tzedek was also, he was making an allusion to the Shema. Was that it too, or no?
Not here.
Not here. Okay.
No. Okay. V'ayin Beis and 72, which is the highest form of spelling Hashem's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Hema Mevararim, they are the ones which are purifying. Ayin Sarim, these 70 ministers, the Dor Haflaga, of the generation of the Tower of Babylon. And therefore, the verse says in Psalms, King David says, the days of our years of our life, Shiv'im Shana, are 70 years. Gamkein, also the Sakin Ayin B'chines Hanal, because the whole idea of the life of the Jew is to rectify these, this idea of these 70. Shenim Shechu Mizayin Melachim, which came about through these original 7 kings that we said of Edom, the Toyu, of the world of Toyu, Shenaflu, that they fell Bishviras HaKelim, in the breaking of the vessels in the world of Toyu. So the job of the Jewish souls are to elevate these 70 sparks, these 70 nations, which originate from Toyu.
So Yisrael is Adam, is rectified Adam, basically.
Yes. Okay, now he's going to get to the Shema. V'ayin mashakasuv, and take a look at what it says. B'dibur hamaschil, in the discourse opening words, im b'chukoisai teilechu, shezeu inyan Shema. So over there, the Alter Rebbe says that's the idea of the Shema.
Wow.
Shem, Ayin. Shema is comprised of Shem, name, Ayin, of the 70. And what's the 70? That's the light of the original 7 days of creation. That by purifying and elevating the world of Toyu, that will draw down onto the world the great light which is concealed of the 7 days of creation, which was put away and hidden. So by the Jewish people purifying and elevating the 70, we then get that light of those 7 days. The Ayin Besidur Chelik Beis. Now he's telling us to take a look in the Siddur Imdach, the Siddur of the Alter Rebbe, where he has Chassidus explanations on the prayers. Volume 2, Shar HaLulav, the section about the Lulav. In the opening discourse with the words, the Alter Rebbe starts off over there saying, in order to understand the root of the whole idea of the Lulav and its species, meaning the other 3 as well. Gabe, regarding to, V'zeu shekasuv, and this is the meaning of what it says over there in that mimer. He says, Ayin nefesh, the 70 souls, l'shein yachid, in the singular. It says nefesh, not nefashois. It's written in the singular, even though we're talking about 70. So you would assume that it should say 70 souls, but yet it says 70 soul. Hagam shem shivim, even though there's 70, that's many. Yet they're like literally one soul, even though they're 70, but all the Jewish souls that came down to Egypt, the original 70, they're like one. Which is not the case in the world of separation. Like Esav, who's all about separating. Ksiv, it says nefashois, Esav. The souls in plural of Esav, Lashon Rabim in the plural. Mashakasuv, as it says, going back now to Bereshis, to Genesis, Umishom Yiparet Chuli, where it's speaking about where Gan Eden is in between those 4 rivers. So it says that from there it separates, it branches out. Atkan L'shoinoi, end of quote from the Alter Rebbe. Says the Tzemach Tzedek, and this is the meaning of what it says back in the verse that we're basing all this on in Hazinu, that Hashem will establish the borders of the 70 nations according to the numbers of Bnei Yisrael. So it says over there, Behafridoi Bnei Adam, when he separates the people. Vayichud Ayin Nefesh, and the unity of the 70 souls, Zeu Lefi Shebahem Yoitzei Yerech Yaakov. That's because they are all descendants, or literally coming out of the thigh, of the side of Yaakov. Shubariach Hatichoim Tiferes, that Yaakov is, as we explained, the middle bar in the Mishkan in setting up the tabernacle. So we said that there was the bar on top, the bar on the bottom, connecting all of those beams. And then you have the miraculous middle one that went all the way through and through. In other words, it even turned the corner shaped like a U, made 2 turns. So that's the middle bar, which is the deepest one. And that is the attribute of Tiferes, of mercy or compassion or beauty. And that's the level where it draws down the idea of Hashem makes peace in his high heavens, meaning chibur hahafachim, uniting the opposites. Because even in Kedusha, and this was the problem in the world of Toyu, you have kindness and you have severity. They're opposites. Fire and water. Chesed and Gvura, they're opposites. And comes along the Midah of Tiferes, and that is Oiseh Shalom B'Mereimav, that he makes peace, and fire and water and Chesed and Gvura coexist. As it says in Tanya, Yigeres HaKodesh, chapter 12.
Wow. Thank you, Rabbi Turen. So what I'm gathering from this is teach the 7 for non-Jews, at least do the 7. And the whole idea of the Chazir is Panemius of Torah, start studying Hasidus, Shar HaYehud V'Munah, for instance.
Yep.
Like, this is big. This is huge. And not a lot of people are really, or I think reaching. I mean, there's people that are reaching out and doing the 7 and teaching about the 7, but when it comes to Hasidus, like I think people are craving it, and I think the Greco-Roman culture is ready for it to start learning Hasidus.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Sure. Okay, so again, we're scheduled to be off for the next 2 weeks.
Okay, 2 weeks. Thank you, Rabbi Turen.
All the best. See you tomorrow, Mitzvah.
Yeah, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.